Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for attending the board meeting, and I'm going to call the meeting to order now, 9:01, and pass this to our secretary, Greg Collins.
Thank you, Stacy. Good morning. Roll call. We have Scott, Joe, and Mark present in person, and Stacy, Cheryl, and Chad and myself via Zoom. And also want to mention that the board meeting was properly certified. Notice was sent to board members and owners via email and posted on the Taco website. So that's number one. And then number two, all of you had received a set of minutes for the November 23rd meeting, and hopefully those will work.
Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
Chad is joining us from the airport. He might drop during the meeting, and if there is anything that comes to a vote, he's given me his proxy for that, just so we know that in case he goes missing.
Stacy, can we take a vote on the minutes?
Oh, yes, sorry.
No problem. Just ask for a motion and a second on the minutes, please.
Yes. I move that we approve the minutes for November 23rd meeting. I couldn't hear that. I assume that was a second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
No opposed? Okay. We've moved the property report up because we have two guest speakers, and out of respect for their time, we'll put them first on the agenda. So now I'm going to pass this to Bobby.
All righty. For the property report, I'm going to start off with a couple guys that we've been working with. I initially started working with Corey Heron with Glacier back last November, and our discussion started around tree health, and it's kind of grown into this collaboration that we've kind of reached out to the county and fire department and all kinds of different resources, the Forest Service. But in April, we're going to do a joint effort with Rob Farino from the Emergency Management of La County and Glacier and Rockwood, and we're going to simulate a fire that comes from the south, and County Road 200 will be closed. Everyone will evacuate through Glacier and through Tamaron, and everybody will meet at the Glacier.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to let Rob kind of talk about that and other stuff we've been working on. You want to come up here, Rob?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation, and the invitation with Bobby was very timely. Every April, we do a wildland fire evacuation exercise in La Plata County. This is our 5th annual exercise, and it's a week-long event where we simulate fires in different subdivisions and POAs. And what we want to do is get people to have some muscle memory to, number one, prepare, and then get some muscle memory actually evacuating. A lot of times I will ask how many people have ever been evacuated from a fire, and more and more hands are going up. There's some people with some direct experience. Port 16 fire, if you were local or wherever you come from, California, Oregon, or places I've been. And anyway, what we need is for people to be ready to go. And what we're going to do is set that up so that people can practice and participate. Nothing is mandatory, nothing's required, but we're going to kick off our exercise this year on April 1st with a 3-week or month-long public outreach and education campaign. That's April 1st, we're going to launch it. It's called Emergency Preparedness is No Joke. And then April 20th, we are actually going to send out a live IPAWS alert. If you don't know what an IPAWS is, it's similar to an Amber Alert that you get on your phone, whether you've opted in or not. We hit the cell towers and the message goes out. So we have, that's how we would evacuate people in a actual emergency when there's no time, like get out now, and we can't mess around. Code Red is the opt-in system that we use for people to sign up for alerts, where maybe we have an hour or two, maybe 4 hours. You know, we know there's a fire, we know it's heading this direction. We want to tell people to get ready. This area might be on pre-evac, and then we're going to draw another area on a map where you guys go now. So we have a little bit more time, but it's still an emergency alert that we send out. But you need to be opted in to the system. You can sign up for up to 10 different property addresses. You can sign up for phone calls with multiple phone numbers, texts, and emails. And we suggest people sign up for all of them. So you kind of cover all your bases. So that's one push, is that we get people to enroll in Code Red so they can stay informed. So that week, April 20th, like I said, we're going to launch the iPause. It'll have a link. Whenever we send out an alert, people are going to be wondering what to do, what's going on. And so we're going to have a link. It's called readylaplata.org. That's our emergency management website, where people can tap on that, and it shows the map where you can identify, okay, I am in the pre-evac zone, so I have, you know, X amount of time to get out, or I have to go now, or this doesn't affect me. And then on that page, we're also going to have all kinds of links and things for people to be aware of and sign up for, and just to get ready for fire season. And then the exercises we're going to do, April 22nd, we're going to be at the fairgrounds with a community preparedness workshop. We're going to have a multi-agency panel with Forest Service, fire districts, emergency management, talking about what we're doing to prepare countywide with fire mitigation. And there's been a lot of interest after the Los Angeles fires about, hey, can I get an assessment? What can I do to get ready? You know, so we've really got people a little bit concerned, which is good. It's a captive audience for us. And so we want to take advantage of that. So that'll be a good spot for people to come to the fairgrounds and get more information. And then the exercises, April 23rd, we're going to call it the Rockwood Fire. Typically fires are named for where the fire starts. So that's going to start there and move forward. And it'll affect at a minimum Rockwood, Tamaron, and Glacier. We'll send out the emergency alert via Code Red, so everybody can see on their phone what it actually looks like. And they can practice their evacuation. How long does it take you to get out of your house with all of your valuables or important documentation and evacuate? So that's what we want people to do. We'll have them come to a common area here. We can answer questions. We can talk about concerns. We can provide whatever we need to do, support, high five, you know, good job, or lessons learned, and things like that. That may expand to the whole North Valley. We may include, while we're up here doing your incident here, we may also include everything from here north to the county line. So there's a lot of smaller subdivisions up there. April 24th, we're going to do Edgemont, all three Edgemont areas, fire simulated fire, much the same thing. And then I think Falls Creek community, we're going to send a fire evacuation out for them too. So this is what we do every year. We're getting better and better every time we do this. It's a good time for us. Fire season hasn't started up, so it lets all our multi-agencies get together. First responders, we set up big command posts. We go through all the motions. So it's training for fire agencies, firefighters, skirting water, cutting line, you know, all the way up through residents and homeowners. So it's a training and get ready for fire season event for everybody. So I'm here to answer any questions, concerns. Bobby has my contact information if there are concerns that come up. But we're going to try to make it very clear to everybody. This is a test only. You know, we don't want to stress anybody out with those alerts. So it'll be very clearly noticed that this is training, exercise only.
And when we do it, they'll be able to get a rapid tag that day. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. When we evacuate areas and we secure it with law enforcement, sometimes they will lift evacuations temporarily for people to go back in for, say, medications or pets that they couldn't get or whatever. You have to prove that you lived there to get through an evacuation checkpoint. And so the rapid tags has a QR code. When you evacuate, you have to have some kind of ID to get that proving that you live there. So whether it's your driver's license or something. But yeah, we want people to go through the whole experience so that if or when an actual fire happens that people have experienced once, and they kind of are a little more at ease and they know what to do and how this is all going to go. So yeah, rapid tags are a good thing for people. We want people to check in so we know that certain homes, if we have certain homes that we haven't had any contact with, we need to go back in and maybe verify that they've escaped. Then they're not out there trying to fight a blaze with a garden hose and things like that.
Can I ask a question?
Please do.
This is Cheryl. Hi, so for the community, for people who aren't on property, who do not have a driver's license, having our address in Colorado, will we be able to get the rabbit tags someplace else if we're not able to be there at that time?
No, it will be at a specific spot. Typically, we'll have it at the evacuation, at the shelter, or we might have a check-in spot for in a real incident. So it's staffed by search and rescue volunteers. We'll have a table and an easy up and the card printer, and we'll gather some info. So it's pretty much just a one spot thing.
And now that is when we're doing it in April, or is that when an actual fire presents?
Both. We're going to have available in April. But in an actual emergency, we're going to start the whole process again for that incident, because the card is labeled for that incident. So the rapid tag, it's kind of like a training, a souvenir. This is what it looks like, it feels like, kind of a thing, but it doesn't, it's not going to work for an actual emergency that happens down the road. So it's just
passing on to our owners, then a good idea to pass on to our owners would be that if we ever do have an event like this, they need to have some type of proof of residency. I'm just trying to think of what we can do to help our owners.
Yeah, what we tell people, and it happens quite a bit, people evacuate with the clothes on their back and that's it. And it can be frustrating because they can't get a tag without something. So we tell people, if you left your wallet in your house and you don't have your ID ahead of time, one of the preparedness things that we're sharing is going to be take a photo of your license. So at least if you have your phone, you can show your driver's license on your phone, and that will be okay.
Once again, for owners with multiple properties, if they had, say, property insurance that they're able to pull up on the website showing that they have that property insured, that would be sufficient?
Yeah, anything that links a name that with the property, that they can check that box.
I don't think so many people don't think of this item, so this is really important for owners.
Yeah, and we're going to have a pretty comprehensive list of documents that people can make copies of or make sure are uploaded to the cloud or whatever. And some really good ideas as far as how to make sure you can, because the more prepared you are, the easier it is to put your life back together afterwards. 2 questions here.
The simplest thing I would
Thank you.
think, Tamron, since I don't have anything in my wallet that connects me with our units here, is a list of owners provided by Tamron. Gary could provide a list. Now you've got my name on that list. So all I need to do is to prove who I am, and then I can get red tag. Would that be possible?
That they would probably accept something like that. And that would just be a matter of making those connections between the Emergency Operations Center, the mobile EOC, MEOP, which is the big sheriff van where they might deploy out of. So hopefully we're in contact, and that would be a lot of residents some help. So if you have an updated current list.
Yeah, it changes periodically, but
Yeah.
would a car registration suffice? Can't remember if your name is on your car registration.
Yeah, we just need a name with the address.
It's on your phone.
Okay,
Yeah, anything officially.
and that's in your
documented
car anyway.
that
so-
you're linked.
And it's in your car.
Yeah.
That you would be.
And, not to interject here, that was a great idea about Gary, but Gary's going to be worrying about Gary and doesn't need to worry about Tamron in an emergency situation. I'm looking for ways for owners to take responsibility for themselves so that they can get out and they can be less stressed through this event if it ever happened. We don't need Gary to have extra stress of trying to get a list of updated Tamron owners and be caught in a fire because he's trying to get this.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot going on, and that's one of our pushes, is get everybody self-reliant and prepared. And we have, like I said, a big list of all the things that people maybe aren't thinking of that will really help facilitate the whole thing. I mean, it's gonna be chaos no matter what. What we're trying to prevent is just mass chaos. We want at least, 70 to 80% of the people knowing, okay, this is what I need to do, and clicking, and then we can at least deal with some chaos on the 20% versus 90% chaos. And yeah.
How long have these initiatives been in place at this level that you're discussing?
Initiatives like
What you're doing,
this is our 5th year.
fire
but-
drills and the whole thing.
Yeah, this is our 5th year for the county.
Yeah.
I've been here just about that long, but
Was that kind of kick-started by the 416 fire?
the 416 fire started with our rapid tag system that was very new.
Yeah.
In fact, we were the first in the state. It's a statewide and actually worldwide system of doing things. And the 416 fire was one of the first major incidents, and it worked great. If anybody was here for that, it was a pretty good system. So we're getting better every year.
So back, I'm remembering back then, you had the code red,
Mhm.
and there was some hiccups with that.
Right.
Have a lot of those been cleaned up?
I think so. We had a huge, we have like 65,000 population in the county. Comparatively with other counties, we still have a really good percentage enrollment. We're probably down to about 40,000, 35 to 40,000, because there's been a lot of turnover with people leaving the county. But the 416 fire really kickstarted
That's
a
what I
really
was
heavy enrollment. And we would love to have 90% of the county enrolled in that, or at least know what it is and just stay informed with that.
So you mentioned, so you got the code red, you have to sign up for that. But this other notification, you're gonna get no matter what,
Yes,
because it just goes through the cell towers and gets distributed as like a silver alert or an amber alert.
Exactly.
Similar to that.
exactly. The Amber Alert has the little symbol, little yellow triangle, I think, and then the fire alert that the folks in Los Angeles got 2-3 weeks ago. There's a little fire symbol, and it's yeah, it goes to everybody, whether you can sign in or not.
And you guys can email me 2 questions that I can get with Rob, so.
What I'd like to do is have something that you can forward out
Okay.
to all the owners, and it's gonna have the information. We just want to cover multiple ways for letting people know and get ready. Yeah,
So for the drill aspect of it in future years as you plan, in April, we're probably the lowest census here at Tamaron, pretty close, it's off season. It may be wise to push it forward, and Glacier they're probably their lowest census as well.
yeah,
For the actual drill part of it, it may be good to plan in the future, something say in June or July, when the population comes back to, more people are here.
We talked about doing it
Yeah.
twice.
we talked about that, and that's fine. We do it. Again, this is multi-agency. We've got BLM, Forest Service, all the fire districts. This is a training event for all of us to practice on our side
Sure.
of things, making sure we're good at doing what we do. And so we have to do that before fire season really ramps up. But hopefully we'll get a big boost in the population here signing up for Code Red. And the nice thing about Code Red is I can send out test messages. I can draw a little circle around just Glacier, Tamaron, and Rockwood, or some of it. And I can send messages to those people. And, saying this is a test for trying to practice your evacuation. Whatever you would like to do, we're here to serve you. If you want to send out a monthly test during June, July, August, if you want to do another full exercise where people come that maybe weren't here, and we can maybe incorporate some lessons that we learned in April, happy to do that for you. As long as we don't have anything really busy going on fire-wise. Our goal is to save lives and protect the community. That's what we do. And everything we can do ahead of time Because it's a matter of when, it's not if, you know, we live in the forest,
Yeah.
so we want people to remember that and to be ready.
Are you guys recognizing this year may be a problematic year with the low snow levels and how
Yeah,
dry it is?
Yeah,
and
we
so
have,
forth?
you know, the whole Smoky Bear thing, you know, the danger scale from, you know, green to red. We're a little bit more concerned this year. We're on the heels of maybe 2 or 3 fire seasons that were very mild. So there's a lot of accumulated grass and growth left over from that. Everybody's equating our winter so far to that of 2018, where we're not getting the moisture. So, you know, with Mother Nature, all bets are off.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're always concerned, maybe a little bit more this year.
Oh, thank you, Rob. Thank you for the work you're doing with Tamron and Bobby for your partnership there. I'm going to just suggest that as you guys work forward and implement your plan, I know you'll be sending owners all necessary information to sign up for Code Red and the La Plata services and everything we need. But I think we should be moving on now with our agenda, and unless somebody has a question that can't be answered by Bobby over email at this time.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I can get you offline. Okay.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, Bobby.
All right, Corey, you're up, buddy.
Hello, I'm Corey. I'm the landscape manager at Glacier Club, and I appreciate Bobby's invitation to come speak to you all because I'm real excited about kind of our collaboration with Tamron and how much I think it'll improve safety of the properties, efficiency of both of our operations as we try to, you know, do fire mitigation, forest health initiatives, and emergency planning. And most importantly, I think just us collaborating is going to improve the service to all members of both organizations and just be a win-win for everybody. So I've been here since November of 22 and have experience in other regions with property management with beetles and borers and other tree issues, though I've been in and out of La Plata County for 20 years, so I have a pretty good feel for this area as well. And so, you know, early last year, you know, within the 2 years seasons I've been here, we've seen a pretty significant tree health problem in this area. And so, you know, ponderosas typically don't have major beetle, you know, die-offs, but just to east of Glacier on kind of where private property meets the U.S. Forest Service, there was in a couple acre spot, there's about 70 dead ponderosas. So that was a huge red flag to me. So the first organization that Glacier started working with is the Colorado State Forest Service, which essentially just helps landowners manage their land. They don't manage any of their own land. They planned, Ryan Cox with the Colorado State Forest Service planned and managed the fire mitigation project down on the property to the south of us where the 550 bridge crosses the railroad tracks. They had all the big timber mechanisms in there, removing and thinning all that, taking the logs out by the train. So we started working with Ryan, whose goal is to really do fire mitigation work from that project all the way north up the valley to, you know, just keep going up, at least to Chris Park, to where it meets U.S. Forest Service again through the private English Ranch, Rockwood, Glacier, Tamron, and Ford. So big part with the agencies, whether it's the county, the state, or the federal agencies, are to show, you know, for communities to show that we're working for the benefit of the community as a whole. So for us, that really, you know, includes Tamron, Rockwood, Glacier, everybody. So our goal is really to work with all HOAs from County Road 200 to Chris Park, really get everybody in this and do this for the benefit of every resident, whether it's a Tamron owner, a Glacier owner, or a Rockwood owner. So for the spot out on the east, we got a big working group out there. We brought an arborist we work with out there. We brought Matthew Ethington, who's an entomologist with the U.S. Forest Service out of their Gunnison field office. came out, and forester, local forester with the US Forest Service came out, and the State Forest Service came out. They determined that was an Ips beetle, which is not the super aggressive mountain pine beetle that we're very, very worried about for the ponderosas, which has taken out a lot of the lodgepole pines at higher elevations. So though it's concerning, it doesn't seem like something we need to throw, a huge amount of resources trying to stop that spot right on other people's private property. But we are using some pheromone-based tree protection that we've talked to Bobby about. We're all both going to deploy that on both sides of the property line around, glacier structures, Tamarack structures, and just make sure it's not 100% effective, but definitely, a step in the right direction. So that's kind of the gist here. So in Forest Health, like I mentioned, we've been working with these different agencies. So I worked with John McAward, the HOA president for Rockwood Estates, and we applied for a Colorado State Forest Service firmworm grant. They call it Forest Health and Restoration. But nonetheless, they have two sides of this grant. They have one, which is a capacity grant, so you can apply for help paying for tools. And the second is Forest Health projects, which you have to basically have planned before you can apply for grants, funding them. So we applied on behalf of basically all HOAs in the area, using the populations of all our HOAs to matching funds basically for a large capacity wood chipper. So this would be a piece of equipment that would be owned by Glacier. Glacier employees would be able to be trained on it. We'd offer any neighborhood volunteers from other HOAs to be able to come take our training course and be certified to help use it. And then this chipper would be offered with staff for all HOAs in the area. So if Bobby had a project, we could bring it over and chip for that project. So I think it's a benefit. Once again, the state wants to see that we're hitting everybody in our community, that we're all working together as one to benefit ourselves. Basically, tree health, fire, beetles, they cross property lines. They don't care who we are. So I think really working together as an initiative is going to be great. It's going to be able to bring in support from the county, the state, and the federal government, not just funding, but support, knowledge of who we are. And we're just going to be a big blip on the radar. We brought the US Forest Service up here to look at the forest health issue. They really hadn't been up here. They've been so busy out by Bayfield and up in Lightner Creek that their crews really hadn't seen what's going on. So just that communication, bringing them up is a big deal. So so we did that grant application in 2024. We identified some beetle activity and have been removing those that we're seeing on them. In 2025, Glacier is teaming up with the Colorado State Forest Service to do a forest management plan for all forested common areas in Glacier, which will benefit Tamarack, obviously, by keeping the forest healthy, lowering the beetle populations. This is a 10-year plan, so it's just really getting, the ball rolling on a bunch of thinning and forest health projects. And then we're going to also in 2025 continue the beetle pheromone treatments and remove any beetle hit trees that we're finding. For fire mitigation in 2024, we worked with Bobby and joined the Wildfire Adapted Partnership Neighborhood Ambassador Program. And we've had Alex Groff, our North County representative with Wildfire Adapted Partnership, both at Tamarack and Glacier. He's been up 3 times to look at some of our issues. And then we've conducted, typically every year, we use the same Underwood Forestry contractor. We remove a certain amount or, treat a certain amount of area for fire mitigation. And then we also have a burn pile program, chip a lot of stuff as well with our smaller chipper. We did that in 2024 and 2025. We're hoping to work with Wildfire Adapted Partnership and Tamarack to work on project areas around the communities. A big area we're looking at now is the area all the way from under the lodge here, above the tennis courts, across around under Prospector, and then around the Pine Cone neighborhood down there. Between the Pine Cone and I guess is that 7 coming up right there, 7 or 8 right there. And then just continuing as well, communicating the importance of this to all of our members and making sure we're communicating with you. and removing ladder fuels, continuing fire mitigation efforts on specific parcels. And then really our emergency planning is a 2025 initiative that we just are working with Rob and updating our emergency plan, making sure we're on the same page with all of the neighbors in this area. So we're going to update and improve our emergency plans and communication. We're looking at making sure we can get radios that are that all of us can talk to each other on during a time like this. Figuring out where we're going to stage staff, and though, like you mentioned, there's not a lot of members in April, it's a perfect opportunity for our staffs to run through this, any members that are here and are interested. And then if we do even just an in-house one later in the summer, when all of our members are here, at least we've gone through it in our burst, make sure our radios are working properly. We have staff where we're expecting them to be. And so we're hoping to keep coordinating emergency plans with all of our neighbors and HOAs. And then our goal is to have to have a pretty good plan in place for April 21st for the iPods alert, and then later in that week when we go to code red. So once again, really, I think our main message is here. We met with Bobby and Greg yesterday with our new GM Ryan Smith, our safety officer, myself, and a couple others in our golf maintenance division. Just to make sure that we're getting a roll on this and all on the same page. So I think there's a great era of cooperation here with the management company and us, and we're really excited about working with you guys and doing everything we can. Once again, I think, as employees of this area, I see we have a role and an opportunity here to really get these properties cleaned up and in great shape and benefit us in many ways. So really, we're doing everything we can on all three, whether it's forest health, fire mitigation, or emergency planning, making sure we really have these together and ready to roll in case when something comes, we'll be ready for it.
I just want to say thank you, Bobby and Corey and Rob. I've already talked to our insurance company, and they say this actually, not only is this very clearly best for the property, for the owners, the people, the buildings of Tamarron, but in today's insurance environment, they said underwriters, this kind of thing makes a difference. So when they are taking our case to their underwriters to try to get policies or to perhaps lower premiums, they look at us on a map and they see the 416 fire, and a lot of underwriters just go, nope. But they said these conversations, when they can evidence the extra mile we're going to, and they love to see partnering with communities, it does make a difference. And so thank you all very much for working so hard for our property. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Corey.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Nice to meet you all.
Yeah.
If you need anything, I'll just reach out to Bobby, and we're in communication all the time. So, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, Bobby, did you have some more to report on the property?
No, we've taken up a lot of time, so we're good. Let's just move on. Nothing was work. We hit it all pretty good.
Okay. Thank you for letting us move you up front. We are going to be hearing more about locks, insurance, business processes today. I'm just going to keep us moving. Next is the ratification of the 2025 budget. All board members were actively involved in the coming up with the budget and approving it, and it was sent to owners. We received no objections, and so I move that we're going to ratify the budget for 2025.
I second that.
Okay, do we have any discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Is Chad on? Do we know what he's doing?
Yes, aye.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Chad, I can't see you on the screen. Okay, any opposed? Great, the 2025 budget is ratified. I'll pass this to Joe and Elisa for our financial report.
Hey, Gary, can you put the 2024 year-end report up on, so everybody can see it? Maybe minimize that, yeah. Okay. All right, so scroll down just a little bit. Okay. All right, so what we're looking at here is, you can't see the whole sheet, so we'll scroll down as we go through it. This is the upper part of the balance sheet. Again, we're looking at, this is the entire year 2024 as of December 31st. Our balance sheet shows that we have about 658,000 in current assets, cash assets, spread out amongst our accounts in Alpine Bank and our reserve accounts. 107, 108, 109 are our reserve accounts, currently totaling $487,407. Most as we've been, after we decided to open our account with Edward Jones, which allows us to diversify our reserves and not have all of our eggs in one basket, so to speak, and keep us compliant with keeping our FDIC insurance spread around so we don't exceed that limit. The Edward Jones account is multiple accounts, CDs, and federal funds,
Money market.
money market account. So we're keeping up with that philosophy there. The two accounts that we had most of our money in, 107 and 108, First Internet Bank of Indiana and Stearns Bank, as those CDs mature, and right now there's two CDs in each one of them. You can see the amounts there. Can we get rid of that, Gary?
Yeah, I'm just trying to mute somebody.
No. So as we move forward, and I believe the two CDs that we have in each of those two banks will mature this year. One in February and the other one in middle of the year.
May, I believe.
May, okay,
Yeah.
so May. So by May of this year, so when we report on our reserves later in the year, probably around the annual meeting time, all of our reserves money will be in Jones in various accounts, CDs and mutual and money market funds. One thing I'll point out is you can see account 106, the Alpine Bank Roof Special Assessment account that currently has 33,000 and change in it. The actual amount available we have for the roof project is that number plus 123,000. So about 150 there. The last installment of the special assessment for the roofs, the outlying roofs, will be due March 15th. And so you add up, and that's about $499,000. So you add that all up, and the money we'll have available to pay our contractor, his final draws, is $656,000. The remaining amounts that we are on schedule to pay the contractor is $637,000. So we still have about $20,000 left of our contingency.
And all the materials have been paid for,
Yeah,
correct?
that's all labor, right? All the materials have already been paid for. So we're looking at the roof project being in very good shape, probably finishing with a plus balance, maybe.
Looks good.
It looks good. So that relates to the accounts receivable that you see there, account 132. That's the entire first quarter billing of HOA fees. $868,000 is that number. And then, like I mentioned, the roof special assessment due at $499. And that's why we have a pretty heavy looking accounts receivable amount of $1.3 million. Go ahead and scroll down some more, Gary. Go down slowly. I don't have any more comments until we get down a little bit farther. I'm looking for account 240. Okay, so stop right there. So account 240, I get asked about this a lot. that deferred revenue, that is while the first quarter HOA assessments, and while we account for that up at the top in the accounts receivable, we decrement that monthly. So right now that's a full 3 months, a full quarter. And then, for instance, in the January report, that'll come down by a month, down by a third, and then another third, until at the end of the quarter, it's close to zero. So it's just an accounting thing, but that's what that number represents. So go all the way down to the bottom, Gary, right there. So when I started looking at our financial reports, this equity section, which by the definition of this equity section is, it's all of the surpluses and deficits over the years. So you're looking at whether you're in a plus or a minus situation. We're in a plus situation there of about $2 million, which is about where we should be. The number that jumped out at me, and what the heck is this? A net income loss in this year of 1.3 million. So I had to get on the horn with Elisa and our accountant and try to figure out why is that just number just doesn't look right. Well, I went back to 2022 and 2023. And what happened in 2022, we were at a normal spot. We were right around 2 million in net equity, 1.7 million, I think it was. And then in 2023, at the end of 2023, we had a huge net income of 1.7 million. And what caused that was when we did the special assessment for the lodge roof and the outlying roofs, which is about 3.3 million in total, that we work on our accounting is on the accrual method. So all of that money hit all at once, even though we hadn't collected it, even though we were collecting it in 4 installments. So it hit the balance sheet, and our net equity jumped up to 3.4 million. That was kind of artificial. So now we're back. So now the net loss or net deficit you see up there is an offset of that, because we're starting to, over this year, we've been paying the roof assessment, and we are paying the roof the contractor, and we're marching back towards reality. So that total equity in the 2 million range is back to normal again. And this is all accountant speak, so that's the best I can do. If you've got questions on that, we can talk about it later. All right, so that's the balance sheet. So let's go to the profit and loss statements. Okay, so the year end, can you get rid of that where it says talking, Gary? Move it. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So we're at the end of the year. We're at the end of 2024. So the year-to-date budget and the annual budget match, because now they've all caught up. During the year, that year-to-date budget will be a number less than that, because we break the annual budget down. So there's a good comparison between the year-to-date budget and the year-to-date expenditures. So the year end, January to December, the entire year 2024, that first column, that's what we spent on these various accounts, and the budget next to it for comparison. We had a number of additional income items in 2024. The sewer line project, which out here in the lodge parking lot was the 328,000. We assessed owners for the lock project and the smoke detector project in the third quarter billings. Third quarter billings, yeah. So that all appears there and it bumps up it inflates our revenue. So the total assessment fees, the budget was 3.3 million and we actually ended up with almost 3.8 million in actuals. That'll get offset later in the on the expense side. So go ahead and scroll down some more, Gary. I'm not going to comment on every line, but I do have some notes here. That maintenance revenue section, if you remember when we budgeted for 2025, that we won't have that line in the budget any longer because all maintenance revenue for unit owners requesting maintenance services is going to go directly between the owner and EHP. That's already been started this year. See, 416 service and collection fees is over budget. We, in compliance with Kiowa, new Kiowa laws on statutes regarding collections of owners who are delinquent on their assessments. We've put a program together and we're now actually, I think we're doing a better job of collecting past due assessments. So that's reflected there. Transfer fees are well below budget. That's reflective of a soft real estate market, reduced amount of transfer fees that we collected. I'll go down to 438, sale of unit 110. We had budgeted, we had planned to, with the real estate market the way it was when we created this budget in fall of 2023, the market was still pretty strong and we thought we could get about $175,000 out of that unit when we sold it. We didn't sell it until middle of last year and we actually only netted out about 156,000. So that's what happened there. If you look at the bottom line, total income budget of 3.8, actual of 4.2, and the difference is those items above the sewer project and the lock and the smoke detector project that created that difference. Go ahead and scroll down, Gary. All right, administrative expenses. We're under budget on insurance. And the reason that happens is because we're looking at a calendar year here and our insurance renews at the end of October. So there's a 2-month offset. So some of the 1.36 million in what we budgeted for insurance costs for 2024 were actually paid in 2023. So that's why you see that approximate $100,000 difference there. And that'll follow, the same thing will happen next year in 2025. Let's see, legal fees are way up there. I made some notes why our legal fees are as high as they are for 2024. We had a lot of things going on. We had the fire safety systems upgrade that you're all aware of. Smoke detectors was the first phase of that. We had to put together a contract in cooperation with the Durango Fire Department with Durango Electrical. We have a 4-year plan with them, and so there was some legal assistance in putting that contract together. As I mentioned, we had the new rules handed down by the Colorado legislature on what you can do in terms of collecting past due assessments. That involved a lot of legal work with our attorney. New foreclosure rules, when you can foreclose, when you can't. We had we had to put the vote together to sell unit 110, that because that's a common element. owners had to vote to approve that sale. And that went through legal. We had special assessments for the sewer, the roof, and the lodge roof. And then lastly, we had the dispute between two owners in Gamble Oak regarding windows and deck openings that we put in. We had a lot of legal work over that, so that got settled out. So that's kind of a summary of why our legal fees were way above budget for 2024. The annual meeting, 532. We under budgeted that. I think we put some more thought into it for 2025, and I think we're in better shape for that one. Web services, that was a budgeting error. We didn't cover the Gary, what's the program that we use to track a losing house? Bookerville, yeah, we didn't have the it's about a $3,000 hit, and we didn't have that in there. We do for 2025. So the bottom line on expenses, administrative expenses, we're actually favorable to budget by about $100,000, $90,000. So we're good there. Personnel expenses. Go ahead and scroll down, Gary. The major item here was in our administrative salaries. Paige Coleman resigned. We had her salary budgeted in, so we ended up not spending it. That's line 585. And so the overall budget, the overall personnel expenses budget was favorable to budget by about $80K. Next page. I'll make a comment about 600 accounts. In 2023, all of our property operations labor cost was in one account. It was account 610. We decided that we wanted to have more granularity on that, able to track where we were spending our money, different types of labor, for instance, plumbing, where you see 625, 626, 627, and 628, 629. All of those were we put those accounts in there with an eye toward trying to track our labor costs. So that was the first shot at that. We realized as we went through this year that we didn't go as far as we probably could have. And so in 2025, we've actually added accounts. We started out with like 15 or 16 total accounts in 600 operations, and now we're up to 23 accounts. And for 2024, and then for 2027, we have 27. 2025, we have 2026, we have 27 accounts. So we're actually going to be looking even closer at it in 2025. I'll comment on a couple of things here. Snow removal being the big one. We budgeted 175,000. We only spent 57. I wish you didn't have to keep doing that.
I'm trying to find out where this sound is coming from. Stacy, I think that might be you.
Okay.
All right. Oops.
Whoops, sorry about that. Did that stop sharing? No.
What if you kick on that green field up there? Does that do anything? No, where it says you are sharing, your screen sharing.
Hang on 1 second.
Okay. And
Better?
okay, we're back. Okay, so snow removal. Again, we didn't have much snow in December, and so we came nowhere close to that 175,000. If you remember right, in 2023, we actually spent over $300,000 in. Let me make sure I don't say that. 243,000 is what we spent in 2023. It was a huge snow year. And so we kind of reacted, we overreacted a little bit. We said, let's budget 175, because even if we have a year that's somewhat close to half of that, we'll spend that kind of money. Well, we didn't. So we spent a lot less. I think our budget for 2025, we reduced it to 100,000, and that one looks like it's going to be way under budget as well, because we haven't spent much this year so far. Let's see. So 625, again, these next several accounts, we were kind of in a trial and error period here. 625 maintenance tells me they used a lot less contractor work, which is more expensive, and they did it more in-house, so they saved some money there. That's why that account is below budget. Miss 629, you'll notice it has zero budget. That was an account we had to create because we didn't account for all of the little things that the maintenance staff does on a daily basis. Going, just a couple of examples might be going to all the dumpsters on the days the trash is picked up and opening them up so the truck can get in there. Bobby, you got any? There's we talked about this yesterday. There's a lot of,
I mean, putting insulation back under the buildings, like at High Point, when all the critters get in there and they tear it all down, or they dig holes under there. I mean, that's a huge one. That's the job everybody really hates. I mean, climbing under all them buildings and putting insulation back up. And
so we just found out that there was a lot of things that need to be done property maintenance wise that you can't put in major categories like plumbing, HVAC, grounds, and so forth. So now we have for 2025, we'll have that budget properly funded. We didn't do any window washing in 2024. Was that the situation where we couldn't get on their schedule or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're scheduled for it in April.
Yeah,
Sure.
so we'll be picking that up again in 25. The exterior maintenance, a couple of the areas we spent almost what we budgeted, a couple more we didn't. The Lodge and High Point, we underspent, and this was mostly because we just determined that we just didn't need to spend the money, and we'll pick it up again in 2025. Fire extinguishers and sprinklers and extinguishers, 640. We had some unexpected expenses due to updates we had to make because of inspection gigs that we had to clear. Let's see, communication systems maintenance. We had the phone systems upgrade, the Ting UMA phone system upgrade that we didn't anticipate, so we spent more money there than we thought we were going to. And then 674, when we did the budget originally in the fall of 23, we were thinking that was just going to be like night janitorial work, and it ended up being, we ended up putting all of the night and weekend staff on that line so that we could identify it better. So it just ended up being an over budget thing. But again, if you go down to the bottom, Oh, wait a minute. So fire mitigation around the buildings, I wanted to comment on that. So we budgeted 17,000 and we spent 38. Even though that's way over budget, that's money that's very well spent. I think we budgeted another 38 to 40,000 for 2025.
And we may spend more than that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say that if we think we need to spend more than that, and I think we do. We can go back up to that snow removal budget of where we only spent 57 out of 175 and
Yeah,
take from some of that.
one thing I will add to that is, I'm in my property report, but, I've been working with Wildfire Adapted Program. You heard Corey talk about it a little bit, and they did a scope of work of our property, and I'll have
I didn't
that
hear that
next week.
from-
Was that?
I didn't hear that.
Oh, I've been working with Alex Graff from Wildfire Adaptive Program, and they did an assessment of our property, so I'll get a scope of work from him next week. And we can then take that to Underwoods, and they'll give us a bid for that scope of work. And then we can apply for a grant through them that will cover 50 to 75% of that scope of work. So that if we can get that, that'll be huge.
So we can spend more because we're getting some help from the
Yeah,
government.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something that we could get in 2025? Can it move that fast?
So utilities, water and sewer was under budget. If you remember, we had a pretty rainy summer last year, especially the early part of the summer. And so we used less irrigation water. So we have a favorable situation there. Overall, our utilities are under budget. So we're good. Capital projects. The 812, the outside spiral stairs, rust abatement, we deferred that in 2024, but we've got it back in the budget again for 2025 at a little bit lesser amount.
Yeah, we got enough to do, I think, three of them.
Three of
See how
them,
it goes.
The fire suppression pumps. 826. We did two more, and I think we're finished with that, except for maybe one in the lodge that
That's the last one.
we haven't planned yet.
Mhm.
The unplanned projects, here's where the sewer project, the smoke detector project, the new lock project. Where those numbers offset the revenues that I showed you on the first page. And when you come down to the bottom line, we're actually in the black by about $200,000. So we're doing pretty good there. And the last page is shrink that a little. No, I guess you don't need to. That's all right. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so reserves, I mentioned that we had on the balance sheet that we had 487,000 in reserves. That's the bottom line to the left there. We have, okay, what's going on?
To make sure you can see everything.
Okay, so we have some. While this year we didn't we didn't plan for a lump sum to add to reserves. We do have some revenue streams that contribute to our reserves. 440 interest income, we budgeted 6,500, but thanks to John Mills and his strategies helping us make some more money. We were able to more than triple that with interest income, 20,358. John, you want to speak a little bit to our while we're here, to the reserve strategies that we're doing right now?
Yeah, so right now, we've in accordance with the investment policy of TACO in general with permanent reserves. We've been very conservative in our investing strategies, but obviously interest rates have made a big difference in that, and being a little bit more strategic and keeping most of the funds in money market funds that are treasury money market funds. They're backed by US treasuries. And that's really up to now has been where the juices, I guess, and the interest rates, because the short-term rates have been higher for quite a long time, but I think we'll see a reversal of that, which I'll talk to a little bit more in a minute, but yeah, we've been able to keep things very liquid. So if any emergencies come up, we're not locked in, we're not getting penalized on any early redemptions of CDs. So that's been a big part of the strategy, is really just taking advantage of the short-term interest rates being higher with the yield curve inverted.
So the other two revenue streams we have are, we still have the one unit that's owned by the association that we rent to one of the front desk guys, so we get revenue from that. Capital contributions from sales. This is the program where any new property transfers, the new owner pays I think it's 2 months of base dues. And that goes into reserves. So we did pretty well with that this year, quite a bit over budget. So about $73,000 was added to reserves this year, even though we didn't earmark a lump sum to go into it. So you can see where there were some transfers to operating out of reserves, and that resulted in the net balance of 487,000. I had predicted last year, maybe about this time, that with everything we had going on, it was a tough year with the insurance costs and so forth, and I thought we might have brought our balance down to something in the 250,000 range. That 487 will come down. You remember back to the first page on the balance sheet, we still have $123,000 in that balance that belongs to the roof assessment total. And the reason it's right there right now is because it's earning a good interest rate. If we just had it in the Alpine Bank special assessment account, it would be earning nothing. So we're still making some money on it. And when we have to, later in the summer, or in the spring, when we have to start paying our contractor, we'll move that money back out of reserves and back into the special assessment account. So instead of a net balance that I was predicting, say about 250,000, I think we're going to be in the 325,000, 330,000 range. So I think we're a little bit better on the reserves than I thought we were going to be. So that's good. Anybody have any questions? No questions.
Okay, thanks, Joe, and thank you, John, for speaking to us about our reserves investing. We're going to move on to, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just, there was one other thing I wanted to bring up since I was on the agenda, about.
Sure.
Yeah, so let me get it up.
Yeah, come on up. I'm sorry, I thought.
It's okay.
You're jumping in with what you were going to say.
So, as I kind of already discussed, and just very briefly, we've been doing very short-term liquid investments with Treasury money market funds and CDs. And after reviewing the investment policy of Tamarron, it basically states that we can, as long as the board deems it a low risk investment, we can look at other options outside of just CDs and FDIC insured products. And the reason I just wanted to bring this up is, with interest rates continuing to, the forecast is we're going to have a couple of rate cuts this year still, which will affect more quickly on that, the cash investments, bank accounts, savings rates, things like that. And so there may be opportunity to look at, as we start to build out a CD ladder again, but incorporating potentially treasuries and government sponsored entities like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, things like that, high credit ratings. There could be opportunity to pick up some more yield on these investments. Just depends on the timing, of course. That's not a hard, fast rule. You know, we're gonna do what's best in terms of trying to maximize return without taking any more risk than we need to here, but I've got information that just talks about treasuries and government sponsored agencies, but I just wanted to put this in front of the board for consideration of being open to some of these other investments that aren't ratcheting up too much risk, but finding other avenues to find a yield.
All bonds.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, I mean, that was basically just, I want to put that out there in the board for your consideration. I know I work pretty closely with Joe, just trying to come up with a long-term strategy. The name of the game recently with everything that's been going on in terms of expenses for the HOA, obviously it's been liquidity, right? You know, we've had a lot of ins and outs and cash flow that we have to consider. But, you know, after talking to Joe, it sounds like that might be calming down a little bit, so we can kind of start to implement some of that. Yeah, we're hoping, of course.
Yeah, we hope.
You know, knock on wood, but I think that, you know, there's just other things I wanted to at least bring up, and I didn't want to waste anybody's time with being like that, and, you know, bringing it up and say, well, no, we can't do that. So, you know, after reviewing the investment policy, I just want to make sure that it's under consideration and if you guys are open to it.
Yeah, I think, like you said, we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we don't have to think in terms of staying as liquid as we possibly can, because we might have to spend it.
Right.
I mean, we want to build reserves. We don't want to be cutting into it. I'm hoping we can start doing that again after we've gotten through some of these bumpy roads that we did the last year and a half.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I wanted to bring up, and you guys just want to bring it to your attention. So
Yeah, that's good stuff. Thank you, John. And Joe, you can keep us posted as those decisions come up.
Yep.
Okay, Cheryl, you have a lock update for us?
I do. Lock update, I'm going to touch on locks and smokes locks. We've sent out multiple emails this week. We did get the Z-Wave locks, which are the ones that are programmable. In last week, we will be starting to install those at the lodge on Monday morning. We'll start at the lodge and then go to the outlying areas, as the email from Gary last night had mentioned. Anybody that currently has their Onity lock off and is using their current deadbolt as a deadbolt and is changing to these Z-Waves, we are not going to turn your Onity lock on. Those will be staying off. We'll coordinate with Matt to make sure that your keys will be at the front desk, your deadbolt will be locked, and you'll have to get the keys or have a person, a representative, come to the front desk to get those. For all other owners, I think that the email has been pretty explanatory. Stacy and I worked on that yesterday, and I think we answered everybody's questions. I had a few emails this morning. I've answered those owners. So if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to email us and we will answer those as they come in. But the Z-Waves will start to be installed on Monday. We still are waiting for the Lock 3 choice, which is the one without the Z-Wave capabilities. Yale has just been very slow since they moved and their company was taken over on getting all the products to us. So hopefully we'll get those very soon and we'll be done with the lock project. Do you have a question, Stace?
Nope.
Moving on to the smokes were installed in all the units. We got done with the first phase of the project. As many owners know, I am working on a reconciliation with the installers. Bobby and I we've sent questions back on some of the charges. So we're working with them on getting a final reconciliation and moving forward to the next phase. We hope to have that buttoned up sometime in the month of February, and then we can start working on that next phase of the project.
Okay, great. Any questions? Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Rules and regs, Trisha Layfield was going to give our report, but she had to leave town unexpectedly. She sent me her notes, but I couldn't open them. They were, the file was corrupt, I think. I'll just say we've had a couple of notices lately. We has sent courtesy notices that one was for disruptive behavior that was leading to conflict, and one was a renter with pets, and those notices seem to be being adhered to. So we're maintaining our tracker and following our new violations policy. And that's the report for rules and regs. Any questions there? Okay. Oh, yes?
Has there been a change in reserve parking policy for homeowners?
Reserve parking policy?
Yes, I
No.
believe I believe it calls for no reserve parking. Is that correct?
In general, yes. Do you have a specific example in mind? Who is this I'm talking to?
That's Ron.
Ron Hyman.
Oh, Ron. Hi, yeah, sorry, I can't see you.
Yeah, I think we have an issue in the Lodge parking lot. Something you may wish to follow up on.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. There, in some cases, the Fair Housing Act requires us to provide and make certain exceptions with the correct documentation provided to us. And we do have some of those instances on property.
Beyond just standard handicap parking?
Yes. And discussions have been had with our attorney. Anything further is confidential. Anything else on that?
For me, no.
Okay. Okay, then I will pass it back to Cheryl for our architectural review report.
Gary, I'm going to ask to be made presenter in a second, but I'm going to go through my beginning of this. And then once I get to the next part, I will ask for you to pass it so I can go through my documents. I wanted to bring this up. I've spoken to Stacy about this, and I've also talked to a couple of the board members to respect the time of the fellow board members, because we all do contribute a lot of time, and to accommodate the owners so that we can make sure that some of these things that are a priority or something that can't wait until the next board meeting, I'd like to propose that certain maintenance and replacement items be non-board voting. These few items have already been added on the property or replaced on the property. And as our property ages, we know we're going to have more requests of this for common items. The items that I'd like to streamline are replacement of windows. The replacement of windows would be something where they would be adding the replacement window in the most accurate color they can find. The people that are doing them in town have already done windows on our property, so we've seen these chips. We do know that most of these chips are as close as we can get to a 50-year-old property. They would be the exact match to the windows that are being removed. If they're mullioned, they'd be mullioned. They would not be any different in having the way that they open, the way that they look on the interior or the exterior. We would make sure that these window sizes and configurations were correct from start to finish. Bobby and I have both agreed to take on the responsibility of making sure that this is done. It would still have all the same documentation that we currently have. They would still have to do the ARC request. Bobby and I would go through and work with them to make sure that the windows that they were putting in were windows that were approved, and we would just let them move forward. They'd still be assessed the same amount of money that we do on a normal project. It's just that this way, when people have failing windows where they're leaking and they're wanting to put new windows in, they don't have to wait, especially through a cold winter or even a hot summer, so that they can get these windows done and we're not having to wait to the next board meeting. The other item that I would also like to have as a common item that we're allowed to approve is, so many people throughout the outlying areas have the storm doors, and we have several of the storm doors on property. If somebody comes to us and would like to put a storm door on their unit, we would like to be able to, Bobby and I, make sure that this is one that's already existing, make sure that it's installed properly, and just approve this once the owner comes to us, so that we're not having to bother the entire board for these projects. We would also make sure that the owners are aware that if they remove the storm door at any time, that they'd have to bring the property exterior back to the same way that it was, because there would be a little bit of damage to the exterior. I'd like to see where you guys stand on that before I bring up my next item.
Those are all items that we have precedent on over and over again, so I don't see where you'd have an issue
No,
with a
as
fast
long,
track.
as long as it matches the rest of, as long as the priority is to match. It seems like.
And Cheryl and Bobby would still review each request independently. It just wouldn't then have to wait a quarter to come to a board meeting. So Cheryl, we're talking existing windows, storm doors.
That's all I'd like to streamline that right now, so that if I bring this, the next is the doorbells, but I'd like to just make sure that we get this approved so that we can move forward to the doorbells, because that's a separate item, I feel.
Are we going to do exterior lights too?
So exterior lights is another option that I would like to explore. I'm just not if we would like to talk about this, we all know that just like our windows, Bobby's not finding the lights that we currently have on the property on any of the exterior buildings in our patio area. Bobby's been trying to best match those. If we could bring that into this conversation, I would love to, because we're trying to match, we can't find, but if we got a couple of light fixtures that Bobby is able to find that are coherent with what our current outlying properties have, I would like those also to be something that would be able to be streamlined. Like I know myself at mine, my glass is broken on my patio. I can't replace the glass. I can't replace the actual fixture. So I'm going to need to replace it with something. And I haven't because we don't have anything common in place. So I'd like to have that as an item as well, if the board agrees. And once again, Bobby and I would make sure that nothing outlandish was put in. It would have to adhere to what we already have on property. And if somebody had a special request where they wanted to put something different out there, it would still have to get full board approval. If that was something they were going to do, it would just once again be something that was commonplace.
Okay, so exterior lights, storm doors and windows.
Correct.
Again, in the exterior lights, that's subjective. You know, what is consistent with the rest of our stuff? I think it would be good for us to see some of the examples be acceptable.
Maybe we postpone that until May.
Yep, Bobby and I can work on getting what we've got out there so that we can all see what's already on property. Like I said, if anybody came with a one-off, it would still need to have board approval.
On the storm doors, those can get pretty ornate. We're gonna keep it just.
Just the common ones that are on the property now, Joe. So we wouldn't, if anybody had something that was not on property at this current time, they would have to bring it to the board for the board to approve. I'm just talking about something that's commonplace now, just to ease the responsibility in our time of trying to get this stuff approved for minor stuff.
We did a big order on storm doors, what, 2 years ago?
Well, we did it when we did the exterior remodels, and I think there was one.
But we did a big order. I think there's
Anderson's.
Anderson 3000.
We put Anderson's
Like
in.
For High Point.
Yep.
Mhm.
Was that High Point or, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Anderson 3000s or something like that.
There's actually 3 different ones on property. I've walked all the properties to see them, so it'd be one of the 3. They'd still have to submit to Bobby and I, so we made sure that this was a commonplace element that is on the properties before we approved it. If it was something outside of that, we would come to the board. Has to be the same color, can't be anything, can't vary color or design. Can I get a motion to move on with this?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
We could have it.
All in favor?
But wait a minute, discussion.
Okay.
What are we approving here? Which ones?
The windows, the doors, we're gonna postpone, we're gonna table the lights until the next board meeting, so it's just those for right now. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Chad
opposed?
Chad is an aye as well.
Okay, thank you. The next is an item that I've circulated about with the board members as well. It's installing the Ring doorbell or the Google doorbell. Those doorbells, we do have a couple of owners that have these on property now. We have conferred with council to make sure that this isn't a privacy issue or that it would cause any type of litigation against us for this. The doorbells are actually a safety feature, a theft deterrent. They are something that will be helpful, especially for some of our older owners who have multiple stories where they're upstairs and there's somebody at their door and it takes them a little bit to get down. It would also help with people who have had people entering their property without knocking because they're at the wrong unit, which has happened, and we've heard of multiple incidents. We would have them so that they would be the earth tone color. They would also be they would either be the Ring doorbell or the Google. It would be one of the two in the earth tone or the brown. They wouldn't be able to put one of the white or any of those up. It would have to be those two certain ones. It would have to face towards their door so that it's actually being effective for their door so they can see who's coming in and coming out. I think that this would be a good thing for the outlying properties only. We cannot use these in the lodge because it would be a privacy issue. As we know, we can't have cameras of any sort in the lodge, but this would be for the outlying properties where there are more, there are no privacy issues and where it's more of a problem with having people coming up and down and not being able to see who's at their doorway. I know I have older neighbors on my sides that if they're upstairs, it's hard for them to get downstairs to see who's at the door.
Question.
But we just, the doorbells themselves, right? We're not talking about the cameras, just the doorbells that face
It's a
outward.
doorbell, it's a doorbell camera, yeah, the Ring doorbell camera. I don't know if you have one of those at home, Scott, but it's just the Ring doorbell camera.
Question, you said it either Ring or Google.
Ring or Google, and it would have to be in the earth tone or the brown, yes.
Is the Google one part of the Nest family of
Yeah.
Google
It
products?
can be added, yeah, it can be added to the Nest, yes. So if you have Nest at home, you'd be able to see who was at your residence, ringing your doorbell, Joe, if you're in Arizona.
So, yeah, Nest would work, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, it's a great safety feature, and you know, with people I know, for me too, it's if I'm upstairs, it's you can try and look downstairs, you can't see anybody, so you're having to run downstairs to see who's there. And I've had several times where cleaning people have thought my unit was a unit they're supposed to be cleaning, and they've either walked in or they're trying to get in. It would just make it easier so that we have another level of security in the outlying areas.
So, and I think it's a good idea, but about a few years ago, there was a strong objection to Ring type doorbells, and I don't remember why.
I think it was just because it was non-standard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Yeah, and that's why we contacted our council, and she said that the only problem would be in the lodge, because if somebody has their door open and the door right across them had a camera, they could be filming what's going on in the, so it just was too intrusive in the lodge, but not on the outlying areas.
So does this new policy apply just to the outlying areas or?
Yes.
Just the
Yeah.
outlying areas, yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward with this unless there's more discussion.
Because you'd have them set
Yeah,
off.
the
all
only thing-
time if people
The only
walk
thing I want
by.
to clarify is that I think I'll make a motion that we approve the Ring doorbells or the Google doorbells. What I don't want to see is all those Nest cameras mounted all over the place
Right.
that aren't.
No.
working. So-
Yes, no, we're not approving, we're not. And once again, this was the owner, and just so any owners that are on here listening, and we can make sure that we put this in our minutes. Any owners who want to do this, they would still need to let us know so that we can approve that they're putting in the correct Google or Ring doorbell at the one that is the earth tone or the brown, so that it's cohesive with the rest of the property. We want to make sure that we don't have a ton of different colored doorbells everywhere.
Do people still need to go to you or Bobby to?
Yeah,
make
it would be a
request?
typical, yes, it would be an ARC request, yeah. And then we could just kind of this would also be very beneficial if we had an issue where there was somebody that had broken in, we would know who had them, and we could possibly ask them for the footage on their camera to give to the police if we had any incidents in the future, so, yes. Any more discussions?
Yeah, I mean, I think this has some benefit because as we move away from the Onity lock, with the Onity lock, it had a memory, and you could go and see who used the card, if the card was issued to somebody like maintenance or whatever. And I don't know, does the Z-Wave or do the Yale locks have that capability?
The Z-Wave that is actually programmable does, but anybody like myself or any of you guys who put the deadbolts, no. Anybody that's doing the Yale deadbolt without the Z-Wave, no. You wouldn't know who's coming in your property. When I was up there, I had not only 2 renters, but I had another cleaning person who was at the wrong place. So it kind of just gives you that extra level of certainty that somebody isn't entering your home or residence without your knowing it. So not everybody's going to want it because a lot of people have renters. And I do feel like if you have a renter, they might have a problem with it, but that's up to the owners and the renters, but it would be good for the people who are on property. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Yeah, but
All in favor?
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Chad is an aye. Any opposed? No.
Okay. Gary, are you able to give me presentation now?
You are co-host.
I am co-host.
you share screen.
Yep, go on my green button. Okay, so I had sent this out, or I believe Stacy actually sent it out on my behalf yesterday. So we have a request from the Thomasons to add a window opening to their deck. We have gone through this is being treated as their first request because their deck opening has been restored to original. They have met all of the checklists that are mandated by TACO. I sent this so that everybody could see all of the dates that all of the request items had been met. I will now go to, let me go to the second. So the Thomas.
I'm sorry, Cheryl, are you sharing your screen right now?
Yeah, are you not seeing it?
No.
No,
Oh, sorry. Now, okay. Now do you see it?
Yep.
Now you don't. Hold on. Okay.
Yeah,
So this, do you guys need me to bring up what was sent yesterday with the, all of the approval items, or can we start with the request itself?
I read it.
Okay, and I believe that everybody saw this, their request for the opening on the exterior deck wall to enhance their amazing views. Over 50%, and it's actually more than 50%. It's almost 95% of all the units at Gamble Oaks have these same openings, have the same cutouts that they're requesting. They've put their size. Their size is within reason. It's the same as what we have at multiple units throughout the property. It will be facing north when they're standing on the deck. They've done a great illustration of showing us where it will be. They've done multiples showing us pictures, how it will be cohesive. This would be done by BHP. They will make sure that all of the materials that they're using match the exterior options at all of our other residents. They've sent us pictures of other deck openings. Some of them are larger, some of them are smaller. Some have, as we can see with this one, have the whole open view. Some of them have the window as theirs do. We've conferred with council and precedence has been set for this, and I would like to move for discussion and then move for a vote for in favor.
You got a motion and second before you can have discussion.
I would like to move for a motion for discussion.
Daryl, you make a motion to approve and then it gets seconded and then we have discussion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Scott seconded.
So this is a new issue, this is a new request, but it is a very old issue and an old controversy. I was surprised to see it come up because both 3 months ago, the board voted on a compromise. This is, I guess, and maybe it's a question, maybe it's just an observation. I guess the compromise that was approved by the board 3 months ago is now no longer valid.
Mark,
Joe,
like 3 months ago, there was one request and that was to keep the window. That was the one request. There was no discussion about the deck opening. The Thomases closed their deck opening. 3 months ago, they asked to have their existing window approved. And based on legal counsel, the board approved that. So that was not a compromise.
yeah, we're looking at this as a new request from an owner for doing something that's existing in almost 95% of all the other units at Gamble Oak. As I said with council, we made sure, Scott and I talked to council, we made sure that the way that we were handling this was done correctly. This is to be handled as a new request and it has precedent set. We've gone through the checklist to make sure that they've dotted all of their I's and T's, that it meets all of our guidelines. It meets every one of our guidelines. So this request is something that I bring forward and would like to vote to approve.
I'd also like to add to it that the submission of this ARC request was probably the best ARC request submission I've seen in many, many, many years.
It is, right?
It's my standard going forward now, Scott.
We need to see your screen.
And so I'd like to just finish.
Well, just a sec, we need to see Cheryl's screen. Are you still showing something? Because all we see is the Google screen and we had an owner comment that they can't see. Yeah, thanks.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Again, it's a controversial item. We're kidding ourselves to know that at least one owner has been very vocal in opposition to this. And again, I thought the compromise that was reached 3 months ago was a good compromise, although I had problems with it for other reasons. Now we've got the new request coming up. This is very close to home to me, literally. I'm sandwiched in between a bunch of owners that have opinions on this. My question is, was this new plan with any owners in my area given notice of this new plan?
We don't need to give notice to this because it's not an invasion of privacy. As our attorney has stated, if you live on a golf course, you give up that purview. So we do not have to circulate this because it is not invasion of privacy.
So a reasonable person. I'll just use myself, a reasonable person, and that's a standard as well. After the vote 3 months ago, would the reasonable person have thought that this matter had been settled?
I think Stacy's addressed that, Joey, or Mark, sorry. We did not compromise. We approved the window only last time. We asked the owners originally to reach a compromise together and they were unable to. The Thomases brought forward keeping their existing window in place and stopping and closing the deck. And
So
then they asked if they could resubmit it and they resubmitted it in January per our attorney's instructions.
So then you're telling me that no one was given a heads up that this plan was coming today?
What do you mean? no
As
one?
per our guidelines, we did not need to give notification.
No, there's no requirement that we notify.
There is no requirement, but what the guidelines say, and I'll read the.
Mark, I think you're missing the point here.
No, I'm not.
3 months ago, we approved the windows and we told them that because of the way the ARC request wasn't submitted properly, they had to put the window back in. They had to put that hole back in and replace it.
Put the deck opening. back.
Yeah, the deck opening, they had to put it back, which they did. And they turned around and they submitted an appropriate ARC request, which that is what we are reviewing now.
Well, let me just, and I live down there, so let me
But
just say.
take that off because that doesn't matter where you live. I live across the street from it. Doesn't matter.
It does matter because, there's something, a wonderful day in the neighborhood. I've got.
But Mark, we can't look at this as neighbors. We have to look at this as board members. We have to make sure that we cover the board and what our documents say. This has nothing to do with being a good neighbor. You're a great neighbor and your opinions as a great neighbor are yours, but we need to reach this conclusion as a board.
Well, and I think as a board, that the owners that are infected, according to our bylaws, we have the discretion to give notice to owners. That's in our policy. We have not.
Can we move forward with this? I think that we've all heard that objection, Mark. I'd like to move forward with a vote.
Okay, well, I just say I've got owners on either side. I've got the owner in 720 who approached me and they were pleased with the conclusion that was reached 3 months ago. He said that his privacy at 720 was intruded because the deck on 726 sticks way out and he doesn't like the opening looking at his guest. 725 is very well publicized. I think it would be reasonable to give those owners notice that this is happening, allow them the opportunity to comment and defer this vote for 3 months. There would be nothing lost. And I think that we would put ourselves in a better position as a board by being transparent.
I'd like to say,
Motion to move forward.
I'd like to say that any conversation from the neighbors, we have heard, and we even gave them extra speaking time. I don't think that there would be anything new presented that the board hasn't heard and hasn't been asked to consider. The November meeting spoke about the window itself alone. And yet we have gotten a lot of legal counsel on this. So to defer 3 months is causing undue angst. And it is just putting off what we already know. There is going to be nothing new presented.
Go ahead,
I have a comment. I have a comment. So I'm not in Gamble Oak, I'm in Pineville. And my unit faces the hole number 8 on the golf course. My unit bumps out towards the golf course. I have a setback unit on my left. I have a setback unit on my right. I have full open deck openings on both sides. My neighbors know it. Nobody's ever complained to me about me looking at them. So I would have a hard time voting against this ARC request, because I know it's all over the property. And myself, I have that same opportunity to look at my neighbor's decks on either side, though I don't do it.
But there's other places that are closed.
Well, I get that, but there are, I just wanted to put that out there.
You know, the whole west side of Pine Cone is closed.
Okay. We've had discussion. Is there anything further on this? Okay. All in favor of
Aye.
approving the deck opening on 7/26?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Chad abstains.
So we have 4 in favor,
Yep.
5 with
5
Greg,
in favor.
Mark opposed, 1 abstain. The deck opening passes.
Thank you. I appreciate this. That is all ARC has for now. I'll work on getting together for our next meeting with Bobby, the lights, so that we can start accommodating owners on those changes as well. And if any owners have anything else as far as common maintenance items that they want me to start addressing on things that we need to replace due to the age of the property, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks, Cheryl. Gary, we can go back to you. Presenting if
Yeah, I stopped sharing.
Okay, thank you. I just have a really quick new business item. The board's been working hard, looking at HOA software and apps, which will allow owners to do a lot more through their phone, through an app. All communication will be done that way. Instead of, email for this and we just need to come up to date. We're having some great meetings and we've budgeted for this and it's looking like it's going to be very affordable for us. So that's something that's going to be coming up in the next quarter. Just watch out for more. Now the board is going to go into executive session. We're going to be discussing matters that require individual privacy and employee matters. So I'm going to ask Gary, I guess you keep the meeting open for when we come back. We will not take any votes in executive session. And to the board and Elisa, I'm going to shoot everybody a Teams invite to get on Teams for the executive session. And then after we're done, we'll dial back into this meeting. Yes?
Are we doing an insurance report or no?
There's an insurance report on the.
Oh, did I miss that? Sorry. Yeah, Chad can't give it. So our insurance report, I'm just going to remind everybody if you want to watch the town hall. It was a really good meeting with our insurance company with some great information, and it's on the website. That's all. So board will leave this meeting and we will go to the Teams meeting and I'll send that email in just a second with the link.
Thanks, Stacy. We can hear Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie thinks the board meeting should be over now.
In progress. I like your fish. I don't think we said.
Talk about my fish. I
Your
heard you. I
fish.
was like, wonder whose fish she's talking about.
It's behind you,
This place was decorated before when we bought it.
but it's tropical.
Do we have all board members are back, right? Yes.
Greg and
Gary's
I are.
muted. Gary's muted.
We adjourned from executive session at 11:21, I believe, Greg. And in executive session, we discussed our collections. I make a motion to move forward with filing 2 liens with the schedule that we defined in executive session. Do I have a second?
I
I'll
second that.
Just go ahead, Cheryl, it's yours.
That's what she's referencing.
Mark, you got to be quick around here.
I'm not nearly as quick as Cheryl.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Chad is in favor as well. No opposed. And if there's nothing else, I move to adjourn. Mark seconded.
Is that a second? That was a
It
salute.
was.
Second.
see, I kept quiet, Mark, so you could second that one.
My feelings are hurt.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Happy skiing, Scott, and thanks everybody for all your help and time today.
Thanks, everyone.